Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Stephanie Farris.
Yes, we do. It's a great interview, a fun interview. It's another one of my clubhouse buddies. So yeah.
Rounding up the clubhouse buddies. This is great.
Up the clubhouse group. The gang. We're going to sell lemonade later and talk Mr. Kravitz's house.
It was a really good interview. We talked to her about, she writes short Instalove stories. And that was really interesting to talk about those types of stories and writing short, which is a challenge, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've read some of them because I did consider that. Because like everybody else, I thought, ooh, that'd be easier. It's not easier, y'all. I'm telling you, it's not easier.
It's kind of like thinking, oh, I'll write children's books because those are short and easy, or I'll write a short story. And then you're pulling your hair out later because it's so difficult to boil it all down and get it all right.
Yeah. And Stephanie does have background in writing children's books and clean romance, but now she's writing these steamy insta-love books and doing really well. And it's been for over a year, I think. She's been doing really well. So yeah, it's really interesting.
We also talked to her. She was traditionally published, and we talked about that a little bit. And then Dictation.
That's how she does her books,
And then sweet romance as well, because she used to write sweet romance. And so we got tips for sweet and steamy. So cover the gamut here in this episode.
That's really great. We got a text message.
Yes, from Athens, Tennessee. And it says, this is about the podcast we did with Alyssa, about her pivoting to nonfiction. It says, I relate to Alyssa so much. I also used to read way more than adults wanted me to as a kid, including the Xanth series. It's actually the first time I've heard of anyone reading them. And I listen to a lot of writing podcasts. And then it said, your podcast helps me keep the dream of publishing alive. Thank you so much. So that's so sweet. Thank you, whoever that was from in Tennessee. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. We love your text messages. They're so fun. The only problem is we can't text back. So you have to wait until we read them to get our response. But we do appreciate it so much. And
and I have a question. If people would like to send us a text, I would love to know how you are handling summer with your writing life. Those things you see that are like chaotic good, chaotic bad, like the things, I feel like summer is just chaotic everything, good and bad. It's just crazy because our schedules are different. And if you have a plan, or how do you handle your summer writing time? I would love to hear what people say.
Yeah, me too. So what's been going on with you this week?
I am getting stuff done, but I feel like I'm not accomplishing as much as I would like. And that's where that question comes from. How do you guys get through all this stuff? But I am getting stuff done. I'm working on the trope book. I'm having a ton of fun doing that. I'm going back and not necessarily rewatching shows and movies and rereading books, but I'm skimming things. And the ones that are excellent are just so nice to go back and figure out how they put it together and made it work. So working on that and just doing a whole bunch of things to get the special edition ready. It's almost done. I got my last proof back and it looks good. So now I just have to take pictures of it and put it on my website and get everything ready and then launch it. And for me, there's this little hesitation because it's like, but I am going to launch it because I've put all this work into it. So I'm going to do it. But there's just that little hesitation.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you? What have you been doing?
We've been on vacation, so, I haven't done anything. In fact, you can probably hear my grandchildren. They're running through this house like they're just excited. Every day we get ready to go to the beach, you think they've never been to the beach before. It's crazy. And all 5 of them love the beach. They roll around water. They don't care about sand. They're 12, 7, 6, 5, and 4. They'll eat a peanut butter sandwich with sand all over their hands. It just doesn't bother them at all. And if I get even one grain of sand in my mouth, I'm like, but they love the beach and we've had a great time. So it's a blessed day and we come home tomorrow. And I got to get back into the swing of things. And it's been, the last few weeks have been a little difficult. I got out of the my schedule changed. That's the problem for me. Schedule changes. And then I have a hard time getting back into regular routine. I'll be at home and hopefully I can get back into a better schedule. But that's what's been going on with me. Not much.
Okay. I wanted to mention a podcast that I listened to last week. It's excellent. It's from the Creative Pen. It's called How to Get More Book Reviews with Joe Walters.
Oh, yeah.
It's very detailed because we talk about this a lot. We get this question a lot. How do you get reviews? How do you get a lot of reviews? And he goes into the different types of reviews. and how to pitch people to get blurbs and dealing with negative reviews. And it's just really good. It's very thorough, very detailed. So I would definitely say if you're wanting to get more reviews, go listen to that. And I'll put a link in the show notes for that.
We should get on with the interview. It's great.
Yes.
And I think you guys are going to love it.
Today, we're really excited to have Stephanie Farris here. Hi, Stephanie.
I'm so happy to be here.
Stephanie Farris is a steamy and sweet romance author with more than 100 novels and novellas published to date. Wow. Before becoming an indie romance author, she was a traditionally published children's book author and content writer for businesses. So lots to talk about there.
How'd you get into writing, Stephanie?
Okay, I started writing really bad poetry in middle school, which was called junior high back then. That's how old I am. But it was like Debbie Gibson level. If you think of a teen writer, I was more Debbie Gibson than Taylor Swift. But I went to college to be a journalist. And I think that was where I got really comfortable writing, because you have to write, the who, when, where, how, just learn that structure. And that helped me so much. So when I got out of school, I didn't become a journalist because it doesn't pay very well. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but the pay is really even worse
than you're led to believe, right?
Yes. And so I went to work in public relations, and I was working for the State Arts Agency, and we were doing this anthology of Tennessee writers. And so all of these short stories were coming into me, and I'm reading over them. And I started thinking, it wasn't that I was thinking I could do this better than them. It was more, I got in the mood to write. And so I just started playing around with it. And of course, I was not meant to write literary stuff. I'm commercial all the way. So I started trying to write a YA book, and I wrote a series before I even decided to pick up any book that told me whether or not I could sell it. We didn't have the internet back then. That's how old I am. And so I read a book that said YA just was not a hot market at the time. There was a lot of book packagers. And so I picked up a Harlequin and fell in love with kind of the short monthly. They would do their books every month. They had new books out, and I said I could do that. And so I spent probably a good decade getting rejected before I finally went back to Kidlit and got a book deal with Simon and Schuster. That's my long winding road.
We'll come back to a lot of that.
Yeah.
But first I wanted to ask, what's your definition of success?
So my definition of success used to be that I wanted to quit my day job. And in fact, we had these things back in the day called listservs. Romance Writers of America had one. And I said that on there. I said, I don't want to be a millionaire. I just want to quit my day job. And some author, I don't know who it was, she was a successful author, felt the need to privately message me and let me know that most authors are never able to quit their day job. I was like, thanks.
Yeah.
So
unsolicited opinion. Thank you.
Exactly. It's let me crush your dreams right here, just right under my stiletto. So I quit my day job in 2011, but it was to be a content writer. I had a book deal by then, but I don't know if anybody, I don't think either of you have been trad, right?
Oh, Sarah has.
Yeah.
It's not quit your day job money.
No,
year after year consistently.
It's on par with reporter or lower salary.
Yeah, we didn't have indie though. It wasn't really an option. So I try to do it that way. I quit to be a content writer. I was able to actually make more money writing content than I was at my day job. And so I quit to write. And I still to this day enjoy that little bit of balance, even though most of my income is fiction. I don't like writing these articles. And I think for some of us, and that's where I've redefined success, the answer isn't in being able to do this full time. Maybe we combine it with other things like a podcast or editing books or cover design. And so I think that I've redefined success as whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great answer because it's different for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. What do you wish you'd known about writing and craft when you started?
I wish I'd known how important voice is. I spent a lot of time studying craft and all the books that you get on the hero's journey. And the big one for me was Goal, Motivation, and Conflict, which was huge in the 90s. And I still use that. But I think the big thing is just what sets my writing apart from Jamie's or Sarah's or anybody else. If we were all given the same outline, we would approach the story differently.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. People ask about that all the time about voice. So like, how did you figure out your voice and feel comfortable going with what you thought was your voice?
Well, I think I'm an interesting study in that because I've written romance, I've written chapter books for 6-year-old kids, I've done the middle grade, I've written a bunch of different age groups, and my voice was similar, but obviously not. You can't write long sentences, and it's just a different type of writing when you're writing for kids. I would always, when I very first started writing chapter books, I went and picked up a stack of Junie B. Jones and the Magic Tree House and just read. And I really loved the Junie B. Jones, the voice of that author. And I was trying to imitate that. And in the end, my voice came out. I feel like it's just writing book after book, you get more comfortable and you start being more of yourself. I also dictate now. And I feel like my voice comes out a lot more dictating than it does writing.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So how do you dictate? Are you just speaking into your phone? Do you do it sitting at your desk? Are you up moving around? What do you find works best?
I have to be moving around, and I always tell people this: if you're going to train yourself, my advice is to train yourself walking around because you get steps. I also do, I used to have a long drive down a peninsula in my car to get anywhere. And so now we moved and I'm closer to everything. But that drive was perfect for getting a lot of right words in because I'm just straight. There might be a deer, but that's about it. And so now I go to the park with my dog every morning, and I've got my Sony recorder and my little lavalier mic that's under my shirt pinned right here. And I wear a baseball cap so they can't see I'm talking to myself. And I'm just talking like this as I'm walking my dog around and trying to stay away from people. And I get a lot of words in that way too.
Wow. That's amazing. Of course, you could be talking and people would, if you just put an AirPod in, they wouldn't even know.
They just think I was talking. But if I'm writing like a steamy scene.
Oh, yeah, that's tough.
And they can't hear me, but I feel like they can. Which
Yes,
makes no sense.
exactly.
So do you know what you're going to write before you go out and walk? Or do you just like off the cuff?
I do. I'm not a plotter, but right now I'm writing these 1-hour romances. So they're only 10,000 words. So I can tell that I follow a structure. Usually it's around chapter 3. I'm saying, you better get to a steamy scene soon because this thing's going to be wrapping up.
Okay, I will get back to that. But what about marketing? What do you wish you'd known about marketing?
That you only have to do what you enjoy. And that was huge when I wrote children's books. Nobody told me if you're going to write children's books, you have to go stand in front of classrooms full of kids quite a few times a year if you want to sell books.
Yeah.
You have to go sit at book fairs. It's so much putting on makeup.
We don't like that. Yeah.
No, we want to sit on the couch. And that's what I love about what we do is that so much of it can be done from home. So much of it can be done from your laptop. And for me, that is huge. But even within children's books, I was able to find little ways to promote my books that I enjoyed that weren't putting on makeup. And I leaned into those. And I feel like for every author, that's the key. Just find what you love.
Yeah. I think we have to ask, what did you do that wasn't the normal to promote children's books?
I did a lot of blogging. This was 10, 15 years ago, so it was still okay. But I would go out and read other authors' blog posts and I'd comment and they'd comment on mine. And then whenever I had a release, I had this built-in book tour I could do. We would all post on social media about each other's books, but that was a different era. And mailing out things to like I'd mail stacks of my bookmarks to different schools. That's costly, but I didn't have to put on makeup except to go I don't put on makeup to go to the post office anyway.
I think the equivalent of that today, maybe it's not blogging as much as maybe just connecting with people over social media. And it's basically a connection that you have. It's just a different way of having it. You would probably do that today.
Just on TikTok, talking about books, that sort of thing would be a good equivalent. You still have to show your face, but you don't have to. But
Stephanie and I know each other mostly through the clubhouse room that's in the morning. That I've been poaching people out of there. But that's one of the big things that we talk about a lot. Do what you like. Do what brings you joy. Don't do the things you really just hate, because it shows, and it's not productive and it's not effective because you don't enjoy it.
Yeah, and what you're good at, because not everybody's good at TikTok. Not everybody even enjoys watching. I don't enjoy watching TikToks. When I tried it for 6 months, that was my big thing. You can't just put yourself on there. You have to be watching videos, or I guess they are. And I wasn't enjoying that part of it. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. What are you glad you know now?
How to pivot. I'm told constantly that I'm really good at pivoting. And I
Yes.
think, I don't know if all indie authors realize when you're a trad author, just how much you have to do that. You have to follow the market, and the market's constantly changing. I was trying to write chick lit in the aughts, I guess we call that decade. And it was huge. And so I thought, oh, editors are probably looking for that. So I started querying, and immediately they're still on the shelves everywhere. And I'm getting, oh no, the market's oversaturated. We don't want that anymore. And so by the time something's successful, it's already, yeah, we don't want that. And so I was constantly having to pivot. And I have done that with my author career, both in trad and indie. And I think in order to stay relevant, the markets are constantly changing for indies. And we have to be able to just keep an eye on it and pivot quickly. We love doing this, and writing is writing. And I know we all have genres we like, but I feel like everybody can find a place where what they love to write fits the market.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you still need to figure out?
Ads. And I've taken all the classes, not all of them, but I've taken quite a few. And my problem isn't doing the ads, it's tracking the success of ads. I'm not a spreadsheet person, and it just I like to make spreadsheets, but I don't like spreadsheets of numbers, and I don't have that brand. I guess I think Becca San calls it an intuitive author. So I do my ads intuitively, and that's not the best way to do them.
Sometimes it is, but when I think in the market today, or with the way ads are today, you do need to be able to look at the data, or I think it's necessary because first of all, we work on such a small margin anyway, but one little tweak or between one day and the next, things can go south. And if you're not watching it, you can end up spending money that you didn't need to spend because it isn't being effective. Yeah, I'm the same way. I've talked about that on here a lot. Data and I don't share a room. We don't even share continent. So
you're not speaking.
No, we don't speak. Yeah,
I'm great at making sure it's not spending too much of my money, but I'm bad at understanding whether I'm making a profit or not.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because it always feels like I'm not, even though I can see that I'm making more money than I'm spending, the dashboard, especially Amazon, always shows that every sale costs me this ridiculous amount of money. And I know there's so many other factors, and that's what bothers me, I think, that I can't see those other factors because I'm in KU. So ads are harder to track when you're in KU. You can't see that.
Yeah, because you're not completely sure where those sales are coming from, or the reads and the borrows and all that.
Exactly.
And even attribution links are not, in my opinion, it takes a while for them to populate. And then by the time they populate, you're like, oh, wow.
I could have moved on that if I'd known.
Wish I'd known. Yeah.
This ad hasn't been doing well for 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the most unhelpful advice you've gotten?
The most unhelpful advice I've gotten is that if I just slow down and write slower, I'll write better books. And I've heard that. Even as a content writer, I guess I'll use the word shamed for writing too fast. And the words that were said to me was, that's not writing, that's typing. And I'm thinking, I've had this career. Seems to have been going well. So if I'm writing really badly and I'm just typing, I would assume that I would not be doing well at all. So I can assume. So it's just this whole thing of, I feel like anytime anybody says, if you don't do it this way, you're doing it, that's a sign that you're getting bad advice.
It is. Yeah. And your background was in journalism. And
you know how to write fast.
Yeah. So I think people who come from journalism, they're used to sitting down, getting the thing done, turning it in, and if you're intuitive and you don't have to think about, make an outline and do all this stuff, then I would say be happy, be glad. There are those of us who really wish we had those skills.
And one way is not better than the other. In fact, I envy outliners all the time because they have them. And if I wanted to write a mystery, I still to this day don't think I could, because I feel like you need to outline. I feel like you need to know where the story's going.
Some mystery writers don't. Some of them are intuitive, and a lot of them, they say that it just all comes together. And then some of them say they have to go back and reverse and make sure that everything's there. And if it's not, they drop in the clues that are needed. But I feel more secure having an outline, or at least a sort of a plan.
At least know who did it. so that you
exactly.
you can set that up.
Yeah. What's the biggest change you've had to make in your thinking?
That my career isn't going to end because my current book doesn't sell. In trad, that is huge. I've lived in this fear as a trad author that if my book didn't sell, the editor would drop me, the publishing house would drop me, and I'd never get another book deal. And then my career would be over. And when I discovered indie, it was very freeing that no matter what happens, we all can keep putting books out. Nobody can stop us from doing that. We might not be making any money doing it, but there's no gatekeeper saying you can't write anymore. You're done. That has been an adjustment. And also the fact that when every book we create is an asset we can monetize for life, which isn't the case in trad. In trad, it comes out, and if it doesn't do well, it's like it never existed. So
but yet they own it for a long time. Yeah.
And they can keep publishing it and doing new editions and whatever they want.
New formats, whatever they want. Yeah. I felt that too. Comparing indie publishing with traditional publishing, there's a lot of fear and anxiety in traditional publishing. There's fear connected to your agent and what they're doing. And are they going to drop me? Are they going to pitch my book? And then for the publishing, it's, am I going to get the backing? And there's just a whole lot of variables that you can't control. And I'm a control freak, so I'm much happier knowing that it's all on me, which is a con at times too. But it does give you the freedom. You know exactly what your numbers are, and I'm going to publish this book, or I'm not, or I'm going to continue this series, or I'm not. So I think it's like, I like it. I would rather do indie than trad now.
Yeah, I meet trad authors who say, oh, I could never do all that. And I actually enjoy it. And a lot of trad authors now, and it was getting that way toward the end of my time in trad, are being asked, what are you going to do to promote this? We want a list. We want you to spell it out. You can't just sit there. You've got to get out and put makeup on and sell this book. And in indie, I have no problem doing all those things. Because it's exciting to me. It's seeing that something I do can get my book into somebody's hands. I love that, but that could be the control freak side of it.
I think it's like you said, like one bad book doesn't ruin your career. And we know that because we know that book is never truly dead, because there are always things we can do with it later to hopefully get it to sell. Like it's what's the word? The potential of the book, as opposed, because with a trad publisher, that book has really no potential if it doesn't do well. They don't really do anything with it afterwards. They may keep trying to sell it, but we do it better.
And really, a lot of people are daunted by the prospect of getting an editor and getting a cover designer. And that part is so easy because of the writing community. There's a group where you can just say, hey, who has a good cover designer? And within 5 minutes, you have a good cover. You obviously have to vet it, but there's no shortage of tools and people who can help. And I think that I don't know if I could have done it in the Gold Rush days, because I didn't. The whole thought of trying to format a manuscript just blew my mind. And we got Vellum.
We have plenty of tools to help us with the things. And if you make some connections, then you've got some references to try. So it's not as hard as it sounds. It's very intimidating in the beginning, though. I do understand that.
Yeah. And I can see that even launching a new pen name, just all the things you have to do. And we know what we did the first time. And somebody coming in just, oh, there's Book Sprout, there's book, everything's got book at the beginning. BookBub, there's Book Sprout, there's Book Funnel. And you've got to try to figure out all these tools and sign up for everything. And do I need a website? And I can see how people would be daunted by that.
If you were starting over today, what would you do differently?
That is a tough one because I started in the trad days, but I would say, obviously, if I started out today, I would skip trad altogether. I'm going to say that knowing what I know now, but also I think I would be very careful about the genre I picked, because I picked a niche that I enjoyed writing in, but it felt like when it started getting more competitive, the pool of readers was not as big. Like sweet romance has a pool of readers that's a small pond, and then you get to steamy romance and it's this much bigger pond.
Right.
I felt like that was where I tapped out, especially when rom-com became so huge. It became a big part of the clean, sweet, wholesome romance subgenre. I feel like that kind of is what stopped me. But again, I learned
Right.
I think anything we do, any mistakes we make, we learn from and move forward more informed and better authors for it.
What do you wish you'd known about writing sweet romance, or what advice would you have?
My advice, there are a lot of rules. I made the mistake of having the hero check out the heroine's. No, it was the other way around. It was the heroine checking out the hero's butt in the first chapter, and I got a bad review for it. And so I went in the Writing Gals group on Facebook, which is a really good group if you write sweet. They have other authors, but they're all sweet authors, so they really know the genre. And I asked what I did wrong, and they said, "Oh yeah." And most people were saying, "Oh, I think that's fine," but people were saying, if it's think of it as a Hallmark movie. If you wouldn't see it in a Hallmark movie, you shouldn't see it on the page in a sweet romance. And there's so many no profanity. I was very cautious about having my characters drink because I knew some of my readers were against drinking. Not everybody. There were some. And so I was, for me, it was just being respectful of the readers of the genre who can be, they're there not just because they don't want to read spicy scenes. They're there because they like a certain feel. They like the family, the focus of the relationship slowly building. And it's a whole vibe that you have to learn. And I mean, I had fun doing it, but I will say that I would just be very careful to respect. Think of like your grandmother who goes to church every Sunday reading it. And they're probably not going to want to see the F-bomb on every page. And
or even once, or even damn. Or,
yeah, even like what do they call it?
I mean, like the most benign. And the thing is, you can say, I've heard authors who write quote unquote sweet that say, it's not gonna, that one thing isn't gonna hurt, but you don't know if you get a bunch of 1-star reviews because of it, that hurts you. So knowing what you're willing to give up and willing to sacrifice for that profanity or that situation or whatever, you just have to know the risk. So.
Yeah. And you could, if you have it in the first chapter, say somebody reads it and they see that one word they don't like, and they just delete the book and never come back to you. And then they tell others about it. And so I just never wanted to take that risk. But for me, it was just writing to market. That was the market. The market does not want profanity. They don't want steam. I do think it's a little bit looser in rom-com. I think that can attract a broader audience.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I think my theory, whether this is true or not, is that sweet rom-com works because the comedy is the feel. It's not, you don't need the steam because you're getting that butter from the comedy, even though there are plenty of steamy rom-coms. I just feel like that's the butter, and a younger audience might be fine with that and no steam.
I like the way you said that you think of it as being respectful of the audience. And I think that's a good way to put it, because it's like they want those type of books. And if you want to appeal to them, you need to give them what they want. Whereas if you are writing steamy, you're not going to write a steamy book with no steamy scenes. That just doesn't make sense. So if you think about it the opposite way, you're going to give them what they want, not what they don't want.
Yeah. And people say, I couldn't follow those rules. That's just too restrictive.
Don't write that genre then.
And I think some people come to sweet because they don't want to write steamy scenes. I will agree that it's not the easiest. It's easy for some people, but it is a challenge. And I can see why some people wouldn't want to write that. But I don't think the answer is just to take the exact same book with no steam and throw it over into sweet.
No, not at all. Not at all. The reason I really wanted to have you on is because I'm not sure how long ago, maybe a year ago, that you started writing your shorts. How long?
It was 2023, I think
so
September of 2023. So a
couple of years ago. Started writing shorts. And if you could explain to us what the Instalove short romances are, and just all the things about that. And I'm sure we'll have more questions as you talk.
Well, I started in 1-hour reads, and what it is, Amazon has these timed categories called short reads, and you don't put your book in there. Amazon puts your book in there. It goes by your page count. So a lot of authors who've written novellas, maybe as reader magnets and then move them over, have discovered that, oh, I ended up in a 2-hour reads category. What is that? And it's just Amazon puts you in there. And so I started, Sadie King is the goddess I followed. She wrote a book on this, and she was also on the Spa Girls podcast. And she talked about how she started in 1 hour reads because it was less competitive. But actually, I feel like I shine there. I've tried 90-minute reads and it was great, but I went right back to 1 hour reads because, and I feel like the readers are responding more enthusiastically than they were when I tried the 90-minute reads. So I doubled down on the mountain man trope, which is huge in Instalove. And I don't think it's huge anywhere else. I don't see mountain men dominating any other category. I don't know what it is. But I started with that and it did well. So I've just stayed in my lane and I always have my mountain man. He's 35 and my heroine is 23 and she's a virgin. And they meet because he's usually in a mountain town that has no women. And so women have come in for one reason or another and start falling in love with these gorgeous lumberjack mountain men types with their muscles and living in their cabins. I think that one mistake I've seen a lot of authors make when they come into Instalove is they don't realize it's the Instalove part of it that the reader's looking for. He sees her and falls instantly in love with her and must have her. So they'll come in and do the second chance romances and the brother's best friend because that's a shortcut. They already know each other. But really, when I doubled down on two strangers and him being that alpha male that just sees her and says, you're mine.
Yeah.
Caveman style. I think that's what they want. True Insta-love readers.
When she says Insta-love, she means Insta-love, like that, because I've read a couple of them, because I did consider it, especially when I was really struggling over the last few years, just to write anything. I thought maybe I could write short, but I think there's an art to it, and I don't think I have it because I like to meander through my stories.
Yeah.
There's no meandering. We get right to the point in Insta-love.
Yeah, and especially if you're only writing for 1 hour reads, that's 40 pages. You've got to get in, get out, and there's got to be a steam
No
scene.
pun intended. Or every pun intended.
They like the steam usually in that genre. And so you're working in at least one or two chapters has at least one chapter and sometimes two chapters has a steamy scene. So then that's not very many words to work with. They've got to get to know each other pretty quickly.
Yeah. So how many words is that again? 1 hour?
For me, it's 10,000. I have a friend who writes rom-com like you, Jamie, and she struggles at 8,500. It's putting her, I think she can get up to 8,500 and it starts putting her over into 90-minute reads. So I think it's a white space on the page thing.
Could be. Yeah.
If you're dialogue heavy, and I know a lot of rom-com authors are, which I think is great. They do that banter back and forth, but I guess somehow that can kick you over. But for me, I think for most authors, it's going to be around 10,000 words.
And are they linked to the same town, same characters appear in other stories? How does that work?
What I do, and I think a lot of authors do this, but I create one town and I do multiple 6-book series in that same town. And I'll do that for, I don't know, there's no rule, but sometimes it's usually when I get sick of being in that town and I want to do something.
Time to move.
So I'll do there'll be a 6-book lumberjack series or a 6-book firefighter. I try to play around with the mountains. They're mountain men. They live in the mountains, but just to make it a little different. So it's not always dude in cabin alone meets woman. They make fire in multiple ways.
No pun intended. No.
They are really, if you enjoy it, there's no more. I don't think I've ever had this much fun writing.
I love that.
Yeah, they're so fun and you're always ending a book and starting a book.
You write one.
I published one a week. It got really difficult when I was doing the 90-minute reads to do that because that's 15,000 words as opposed to 10,000.
Yeah.
And 10,000 for me, I can do one a week and not sweat it. I dictate, like I said, I can do 1,000 words easy in one session, 30-minute session. And now I have the tools necessary to clean up my dictation. I used Turbo Scribe, which does a really good job of cleaning it up to where I don't have to do as much work on it as when I used Otter. No offense to Otter, but I found I was spending so much time cleaning it up and I got to keep it moving.
Yeah.
What do you do about covers?
I have a guy on Fiverr that a lot of Instalove authors use that he charges. I'm going to give him a huge shout out. He's Design Rands, Design RAN as in Nancy S. And I think, charges $20 a cover. It's amazing. And he does such a good job and fast. I've dealt with a lot of cover designers when I was a sweet romance author. And to have a cover back 48 hours after you've requested it, I mean, I don't want to make a commitment for him, but usually it's a day or two after I've requested it. He's got it back to me. But mine are man chest. It's not, I don't think it would work for everybody. The man chest covers, I hate to say are easier because I couldn't do them, but I think they're easier than some other covers.
Yeah. Yeah. There's probably less moving parts. You don't have to, there's not anything there's not a lot they have to recreate or create. They just take the stock or whatever. I was going to say the book that I had that was Reader Magnet that's now in KU is 99 pages and it's 2-hour romance short reads. Of course, I didn't put it in. That's just what they put it in. And it's about 21,000 words. So it's a 2-hour read. But it does have a lot of white space because it is very dialogue heavy. So that's probably why.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think 20,000 hits the 2 hours. Somebody's got a chart of these where it goes. I know for me personally, when I accidentally went over 10,500, I ended up at 90-minute reads. So it was I found out the hard way a couple of times, just how far I can push it before it kicks me over into the neck. And it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's just the higher up you go, the longer you go, the more authors are in that space, especially 2-hour reads. There are quite a few authors doing 2-hour reads.
Mm-hmm.
And do your readers, do they know that it's coming? You've got one a week and they're waiting for it?
One thing I found, I don't know if it's an Instalove thing or a Steamy thing, the readers aren't as communicative as they were when I was writing sweet romance. I don't know what the difference is, but I would constantly have people reaching out, giving me feedback. And with Steamy, I do a survey once a year and they tell me they still want me to keep writing Mountain Men. And so I keep writing Mountain Men. And I've asked, do you want me to go longer? And they've said, some have said yes, but some have said no, I want you to keep doing exactly what you're doing. So I'm not sure if I didn't publish one week, if they notice. Maybe I should try and see what happens.
I wouldn't if it were me.
Yeah, are you still alive over there? I do take a week off between series and put out a complete collection because I do gather the books up into 6-book bundles and publish them that way. Some people love to just read one after another like that.
Is there anything else you think we need to know about Instalove or writing short?
Trying to think. I would say it's not easy. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. I think people think it is because it's shorter. Yeah.
When are you going to write a real book? That sort of thing. And it's like I every now and then I'll even get a review that says, this writer shows a lot of potential. I think she could write a novel. Do you know how many novels I have on my computer that have never seen the light of day?
Exactly.
I think people who think it's easy to write short have never tried to write short.
Right.
Because it's a skill and I think it's harder actually to write short and have all the elements there that you need and do a good job of it. I think it's really challenging.
Yeah, you have not a word to waste. And they said, we did Instalove University a couple of years ago. I really wish they'd do it again. And one of the things I learned from that is that the reason we do mountain men, lumberjacks, firemen, billionaires, whatever we do is because that's a shorthand. That's a shortcut. Look at that. You're getting a mountain man. So you don't have to spend hours setting up what a mountain man is. The reader already knows. And then you've got the 23-year-old virgin in mind. You know that. You know what that is. You don't have to spend a lot of time with that stuff. And there's just a lot of little things you do that just to make every word count tight. But you still have to get the full romance arc in there.
Right.
Yeah. Do you do any marketing besides just regular release? Because I feel like that's marketing in itself.
People always say, oh, I would never send out a newsletter every week. I have a new release every week. So I don't think my readership is as sensitive to that because I will sometimes send out 2, 3. If I'm in an author collab, we do a lot of those in Instalove where the authors join together and do a series and everybody releases one book. And so I think they don't mind the constant newsletters. And so I definitely use that. I used to do a lot of the newsletter promos. I feel like those aren't working as well anymore. I think it took me about 3 years, but after everybody else figured it out, those aren't really doing what they used to do. And I can't qualify for a book club featured deal. That's one bad thing about writing novellas. You just, nope, you don't qualify even with a complete collection. It has to be a novel. And so that sort of thing makes it hard. I also do newsletter swaps. I'm one of those people. And I do a lot of I guess, season, I'll do a reader magnet and put it in book funnel promos to get new people is what I'm looking for. Just new people who haven't discovered me before.
Nice. All good tips and advice. What's the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success?
The one thing I've done, I think, from the beginning is look for other authors. Find my group. Back in the day, I joined Romance Writers of America, which we had all these local chapters that I miss so much. I know we can't have them anymore, but I loved just being able to go somewhere once a month and hang out with other authors and talk. They would bring in these speakers that were phenomenal. But now I did this Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators thing for a decade. That's a great group, but ours only met once a year. We had a big conference. It wasn't the same as going somewhere and hanging out with authors. And of course, Clubhouse every morning, being able to talk to other authors, all of that. This is such a lonely career. I know we hear that all the time, but it just helps to have friends along on the journey with you.
You can't go wrong figuring out some authors that you can connect with and just be close to and share the highs and lows with. Can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely. It's been great having you here. Tell everyone where they can find out more about you and your books and all of that.
Well, I write Steamy Romance as Lila Hart, and that's with an H, Lilah, Hart. And I write Sweet Romance. Used to write it as Macy St. James, but it's messy now because I'm moving those books over to my real name, Stephanie Faris. And so StephanieFarris.com are the ones I moved so far. It's just, nobody ever warned me that it takes so long to get your books recovered.
Yeah.
50 books, one at a time. I may die before this is ever done. People can find some of the books on StephanieFarris.com.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. It's been so great being here after listening for so long.
We've enjoyed it. We will have all those links in the show notes. Thanks for listening today. You can support the podcast at wishidknownforwriters.com/support, and you can find the show notes at that same link. And we will see everybody next week. Bye.
Bye.